Welcome to the Pub Sports Radio Ian Cameron Sports Report for Tuesday, October the 20th, World Series for the overall series and Game 1. That's where the focus of the show is going to be tonight. Tampa Bay Rays, LA Dodgers. We're definitely going to be breaking that down. Before we get to that, this is going to be a brief show because we're going to do last night, recap what we saw in the two NFL games. Then we'll do the World Series preview and a Game 1 preview tonight, and then we'll get you out of here on this Tuesday edition of the Ian Cameron Sports Report. Let's go back to last night. Damp, dreary, wet night in Buffalo, and a dreary performance on the field from the Buffalo Bills last night as well to match the weather that we were seeing in Western New York, particularly with the offense. Just not a very good night for Josh Allen in the passing game. Didn't complete many passes, not even 200 passing yards of offense in the game. Just totally out of sync, really, the Bills' offense for much of that game. Dropped passes, Allen inaccurate with the football. Other than the one touchdown drive they had, well, they had two of them, but the last touchdown drive when Kansas City got a 2-score lead, kind of prevent defense the Bills were going up against there with what Kansas City was throwing at them. But nevertheless, not a good offensive game. And the Bills' defense continues to be an issue. We saw them not be able to get off the field on third down. Just running the football right down Buffalo's throat. And if you would have said to me the Chiefs were going to win and cover last night, I would have thought for sure, Patrick Mahomes probably going to have a huge day throwing the football. That wasn't the case. Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator, who I think is right around the corner, going to be getting an NFL head coaching position. I don't think there's any doubt whatsoever, especially now that we're going to see, I think, vacancies in multiple places already. When you think of Houston's fired a coach already, Atlanta's fired a coach already. There's going to be other vacancies. Adam Gase is going to be done at some point, you would think, unless the New York Jets are completely out to lunch and completely stupid. They're already stupid as it is for keeping him as long as they have. But you would think at some point Gase is gone. So there's going to be multiple coaching vacancies available in the NFL offseason. And you would think Eric Bieniemy is going to be at the top of the list for a lot of these teams in terms of where they go with their next head coaching hire. Did a great play calling job. And I like that they stuck with the run. They saw that it was working. They saw the Bills weren't stopping it. As much as they like to incorporate the passing game in Mahomes, they didn't need it. They were just simply running the ball down the throat of the Bills. And, the Bills, unfortunately, were in a position where defensively they were just so bad that they probably knew that, hey, they're going to run the football again. They just couldn't stop it. The offensive line for Kansas City completely dominated and smoked the Bills' defensive front in that battle inside the trenches. They were blowing the Bills off the line of scrimmage repeatedly when they handed the ball off to either Clyde Edwards-Helaire or the backup running back, Williams. And it was just not a very good night for the Bills defense. They got shredded in that game on the ground. And of course, their offense couldn't get on in any sort of rhythm. And the Kansas City Chiefs end up with the win and the point spread cover. The back door was open briefly late in that game yesterday, but a Josh Allen interception sealed the deal and ensured that the Kansas City Chiefs would get the point spread cover. The game ends up staying well under the total as well. Dallas and Arizona, look, it was a shit show, abysmal performance once again from the Dallas Cowboys. And as soon as you saw in the opening, when they actually got a couple of stops on Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinal offense, you thought, wow, it's not a bad start. Their defense is actually dug in here. But then Andy Dalton is almost taking a safety and throwing the ball incomplete. And again, Dallas's defense held together for almost a quarter, but then Zeke Elliott with the first of his two costly, inexcusable fumbles that he commits, coughing the ball up, putting the ball on the turf, and Arizona immediately turns that first Ezekiel Elliott fumble into points and go up 7-0. And then right again, Ezekiel Elliott fumbling a second time, Arizona recovering again. And that was pretty much all she wrote for Dallas at that point. The defense, which actually started the game strong. When you think about it, Murray and the Arizona offense was, spinning their wheels in the early going. Cowboys did a solid job defensively, but those two fumbles resulting in quick Arizona points, the offense and Andy Dalton, boy, I opened the door for this offense to maybe still look pretty decent with Dalton, and it was awful. It was absolutely brutal. Now, he wasn't good. There's no doubt about it. Andy Dalton was not very good last night. He was missing throws. He was taking too many sacks. But the offensive line for the Cowboys, which was already a little bit compromised going into last night's game due to some key absences, when you think of Tyron Smith and you think of La'el Collins, who were already out, a couple others, and now you've got to see Zach Martin, the only regular mainstay from previous seasons, still on that offensive line. He ends up getting injured and he doesn't come back in the game. And that by that point, you're looking at an absolute mishmash and mash unit of an offensive line for the Dallas Cowboys. And it showed. They had troubles opening up holes for the ground game, protecting Andy Dalton, who needs protection if he's going to be effective. He is not one of those can make plays when the pocket collapses kind of quarterbacks. He's got to get that pass protection to be successful, to be able to make plays down the field in the passing game. And the Dallas Cowboys were just incapable of giving him that kind of pass protection. And then, of course, the Christian Kirk big touchdown catch, 80 yards from Kyler Murray right before half, and you knew the game was over. I'd already figured that Dallas was done when it was 14-0, but then when it got to 21-0, you knew it was no chance coming back. Just a brutal performance, and and now the big news coming out today, reported by a lot of NFL beat writers on the scene following the Dallas situation closely, saying the players are now speaking out about Mike McCarthy and the coaching staff, saying how unprepared they are. They don't make adjustments on the fly. He deserves some blame. I get it. And Mike McCarthy didn't do a great job the last couple of years in Green Bay. And I think he's always been a little bit of an overrated coach. He rode the coattails of a one Super Bowl championship, not two, not three, not four, not five, like LeBron used to say, one Super Bowl that he won. And he won it because he had Aaron Rodgers. It was more than anything McCarthy did from a coaching standpoint as to why they won that Super Bowl. They had Aaron Rodgers. That's why they won it. So I get it. Mike McCarthy to me was not the best hire they could have made, the Dallas Cowboys. But at some point, these players have to shut up, look in the mirror, and realize what you're doing wrong. Realize what's going on with you. This is now two head coaches now. First it was Jason Garrett. Now it's Mike McCarthy. And you still look like the same mess of a football team on both sides of the football. He says, we're not prepared well enough with this coaching staff. What is it going to take to prepare Ezekiel Elliott and DeMarcus Lawrence proper? What is it going to take to have them properly prepared to play a football game? Could you explain that to me? What's it going to take? Because now this is two different head coaches in 2 seasons where I've seen Elliott and Lawrence look like nothing but a couple of overpaid stiffs who are doing absolutely nothing on the football field, making no impact. What was Zeke Elliott doing last night? Oh, yeah, he was coughing up the ball. He always says, feed me, feed me, feed me. You can't get fed when you're coughing up the food. Simple as that. And that's exactly what Ezekiel Elliott did last night, repeatedly putting the ball on the turf. He has not had that big impact running the football really ever since he got paid, essentially. And DeMarcus Lawrence got that big fat contract. Defensive end. We thought he's this, elite pass rusher in the NFL. I looked up the stats last night after that game. I went to the box score and I wanted to see if I saw DeMarcus Lawrence's name there, because I didn't see any kind of impact from him. Sure enough, he wasn't even listed. In the box score of an NFL game, in terms of the defensive players, you're usually going to see the names listed, and you see solo tackles, assisted tackles, sacks for defensive players, interceptions, fumble recoveries, stuff like that. That's the stats that are tracked for defensive players. His name didn't even appear on the Dallas Cowboys defensive statistics for players last night. He did nothing. He made zero impact on the football game, and you paid that guy a shit ton of money to get after the quarterback, to cause havoc, to get in there and get a pass rush on opposing quarterbacks. He's done nothing. Absolutely nothing for the Dallas Cowboys. And Ezekiel Elliott, he's fumbling the football more than he is scoring touchdowns, running the football. You paid those two guys. At some point, if you're the Dallas players, you've got to stop looking for ulterior reasons why you suck and look in the mirror and realize you're not a very good football team. And then the Cowboys, and there are still some that, while they're frustrated with the team's play on the field, They're still going back to the old, oh, but we're injured. Oh, but we've got guys out. Our offensive line is completely in shambles. And yes, that's true, but suck it up. Every NFL team has injuries. That's football. It's a physical sport. You're going to lose guys to injury. You got to have the next man up mentality. Get someone on that offensive line that can block. Get someone on that offensive line that can pass protect. Simple as that. Get depth in your organization so that when you have cluster injuries on one particular unit, whether that's the offensive line, whether that's the defensive line, whether that's at linebacker, whether that's in the secondary, get depth so that you can plug someone in for an injured starter that can make plays, that can make an impact. The Dallas Cowboys don't have that at their disposal. And that's an indictment of old man Winter, Jerry Jones, and Steven up there in the booth. You always see in the press box. You see them every game. There's issues. I mean, it's a collective problem, top down, with the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones should have stopped being a GM eons ago, yet he insists on it. And I don't think Steven's all that much better in terms of evaluating NFL talent and from a depth perspective, because there's no depth on this offensive line. Nobody came into that offensive line and looked good last night. If the starters are done, they're screwed on the O-line. I think that's what we found out about the Dallas Cowboys last night. And now the players blaming the coaching. And look, Mike McCarthy's been here for a couple of months, and I'm not trying to defend McCarthy. He's not a great coach. He is not a great head coach in my mind. And I'm not trying to totally defend him, but he's been here for months? He had no proper offseason or training camp, no preseason games. And, trying to install new systems, new coordinators. And by the way, how bad is Mike Nolan as a defensive coordinator? I know Mike McCarthy brought him in because he's a good old friend of his. Mike Nolan gave Mike McCarthy a job way back when, I believe, in San Francisco, well over a decade ago, even before I think Mike McCarthy became the Packers head coach. So I understand it's like tit for tat, favor for favor. I'm going to bring you back now into the coaching realm and hire you as my DC. You opened a door for me years ago. I'm going to open a door right back for you now. That's probably McCarthy's thinking, hiring Mike Nolan. But at some point, you got to put friendships aside. You got to put allegiances aside. This defense stinks. It can't get off on third down. It doesn't get a pass rush. It's not stopping the run. It's faked out of their boots, faked out of their shoes every time last night when Kyler Murray faked a handoff and kept the ball himself. And next thing you know, he's gone down the field for a 20-yard run. How many times did the Cowboys bite on that play last night? I mean, it's just a bad defense, undisciplined, penalties, no pass rush. And I think it's poorly constructed by Mike Nolan. And at some point, you got to cut bait if you're Mike McCarthy. Enough with the friendships, enough with he's a good friend of mine. His defense sucks right now, and you're going to have to do something about that. Either you're going to have to get players that can make plays, you're going to have to find another defensive coordinator. But the bottom line is, and I'm not even all that upset. I'm upset because it sounds like I'm upset that what's happening with Dallas. Actually, I always enjoy seeing the Dallas Cowboys look awful. But the bottom line is, it's everything. And for the players to have this report come out today that they're blaming the coaching staff for this, give me a break. You're the same bunch of players that were a complete joke last year in the final year under Jason Garrett, and you're looking like an even bigger joke so far in the first month or so of this season. It's time to look in the mirror. As a team, you're not good enough. As players, you're not good enough right now. Period. It's as simple as that. So with that, Arizona, an easy win last night. Easy if you took them money line. And the game again stays under the total. Frustrating for me. That was the one play I really did like last night, was the over. I thought we'd get something from Dallas. Silly me. Expecting Dallas to be able to do something offensively against what I still think is kind of a suspect Arizona defense, but it didn't matter. Dallas's offense with that offensive line that was putrid, injury-riddled, lost Zach Martin during the game, couldn't get anything going, and that's why even though Arizona puts up 38, the game still stays under the total of 55. So that's your NFL yesterday. Let's go to World Series now preview. Rays, Dodgers. Let's go to Game 1. We've got the LA Dodgers minus 160 favorites here in Game 1. Total 7.5. Tyler Glasnow, Clayton Kershaw. Your pitching matchup here tonight in Game 1. here is the way I feel about this series, and I'm going to try to be as honest as I can. I am not going to be betting this series hand over fist. It's not a big unit type of wager amounts World Series for me. It's going to be very cautious, very, disciplined. We're not going to unload. We're not putting the mortgage on any one game in this World Series or the series price for that matter. I did sprinkle a little Tampa series price because I just thought it was a little bit inflated on the Dodgers. It's a challenging World Series for me personally to handicap for various reasons. And here's why. I think the Dodgers are going to win the series, but to me, the value is not there in my mind to back them. And I am not going to be backing the Dodgers in any one game in this series. I do think they'll probably find a way, and I like the momentum, and I like that they stared into the abyss. They stared another disheartening playoff exit right in the face, right between the eyes against Atlanta, down 3-1 in that NLCS and came back to win in 7 games. I like that they faced adversity, and this time, unlike previous years, the Dodgers came through it and have gotten to this World Series. It makes me think maybe they're ready to take that final step and be World Series champions this year. And there are things to like about the Dodgers. They've got the much deeper lineup than Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay can hit, but they don't have the 1-9 punch in this lineup like the LA Dodgers have. They've got that working for them. They've got Clayton Kershaw on the mound tonight, who has had a solid playoffs. I know the last start he had against Atlanta, he got roughed up in that one inning, but prior to that, he was sailing along. And what concerns me for the Rays tonight is they've just not been hitting against lefties here in the playoffs. They have a combined team batting average below 200 against lefties here in the playoffs. It's a little bit of a worry for me as they take on Kershaw here tonight. Tyler Glasnow, I usually like Glasnow to back him, bet on pitcher a lot of times. But here's my worry about Glasnow. His postseason numbers, 4.66 ERA and 4 postseason starts. That's not great. Yeah, he has 25 strikeouts. And by the way, I do like his strikeout prop tonight. I think it was 6.5 the last I saw it. Over 6.5 strikeouts for Glasnow. I am concerned about one thing. Home runs have been an issue in the playoffs for him. He's allowed 6 home runs in 19.1 innings here in the playoffs. And if he's given up bombs early in the game, he's not going to last long enough to cash that strikeout prop. But still, I think that's worth a small bet, that Glasnow strikeout prop tonight, in case he can at least go 5 or 6 innings, because he is just a K machine. And I think he's got the chance to rack up those Ks here tonight. But he's also got the potential to give up home runs, and that's a concern because he's given up 6 in 19.1 innings. That's not a great ratio. And who's good at he's prone to giving up home runs, Glasnow, here in the playoffs. Who's prone to hitting them? Yep, the Dodgers. That's for sure. They've got multiple home run hitters in this lineup, and that is definitely something that worries me a little bit going into this game tonight. Tampa Bay's got a bullpen edge. I mean, I like the Dodgers bullpen as they played great in Game 7. I mean, give the bullpen credit. Even Jansen had a good final outing of that series. Maybe the bullpen edge for Tampa is not as strong as it would have been maybe 2-3 weeks ago, because the Dodgers bullpen did get better, toward the end of that NLCS against Atlanta, but I've still got to give the bullpen edge to them. That's why I may bet the Rays in game tonight after Kershaw and Glasnow leave the game, and as long as the game is still close, because I think there could be a chance for Tampa Bay in a close game if they're down a run or if they're tied, with the bullpens in play, that you might be able to see Tampa Bay find a way to get the win here. More than anything, here's the bet that I think makes some sense here. It's the price has gone up a bit. It's up to minus 145 now. I'm not involved significantly in this game, but if I had to give one stance, it would be Tampa Bay plus 1.5 runs, minus 145. That's what I'd be looking at. That would be my favorite opinion if I'm going to bet anything side or total here in Game 1 tonight. I think Tampa Bay, not to win, but Tampa Bay on the run line to be a little bit safer, a little bit more cautious. Tampa Bay plus 1.5 runs at around minus 145. That is the bet that appeals to me the most going into Game 1 tonight. Other than that, I'm pretty much sitting on the sidelines and passing in terms of a wager prior to first pitch tonight in Game 1. like I said, I'm not backing the Dodgers at all in this series. I'm either going to be backing Tampa Bay at the underdog price game to game in this series or nothing at all. The Dodgers definitely should be favored, no argument, but I don't believe they should be in this, near minus 170 range to minus 175 even earlier in the day. We've actually seen some Rays money come in here in game one. I don't believe they should be this high of a favorite. I think there will be value on Tampa Bay. If you're going to bet something in this game, for me, it would be Tampa Bay run line, plus 1.5 runs, minus 145. But I'm going to stay out of this game overall tonight, other than potentially a sprinkle on the Glasnow strikeout prop. Might even sprinkle on this Rays run line, but nothing significant. It's an entertainment-sized bet for me just while I'm watching the game. In terms of a significant wager, I'm passing on the game. I also mentioned that to my email subscribers today. The best case scenario for me tonight is that the LA Dodgers win, which I think they will. But again, I think this also could be a one-run win for them, which is why I like the run line on Tampa. Remember, Dodgers only won Game 7 against Atlanta by 1 run. That's why I lean Rays run line plus 1.5 tonight. But best case scenario for me is the Dodgers win tonight, which I think they will. And then I'm going to be looking to come back and bet on Tampa Bay for a much more significant opinion and a much more significant stance tomorrow night in Game 2 with Blake Snell on the mound for the Rays. And again, the Dodgers, their proficiency against lefties, it goes down compared to what they do as a lineup against righties. So that's why I prefer the matchup tomorrow night in Game 2 for the Tampa Bay Rays. So that's my look at Game 1 of the World Series. Tampa Bay Rays, LA Dodgers. Hope you guys enjoy it. It should be a great series. We're all hoping for a great World Series, a competitive World Series, an exciting, dramatic World Series. Hopefully we get that starting tonight with Game 1 in Arlington, Texas. All right, that'll wrap up this edition of the Pub Sports Radio Ian Cameron Sports Report for Tuesday, October 20th. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow on Wednesday with the next edition of the show. I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Tuesday night. Enjoy Game 1 of the World Series, and I'll see you again tomorrow on Wednesday for another edition of the Pub Sports Radio Ian Cameron Sports Report.